Evening all. I have to be very careful tonight because the topic for this discussion is Anita Sarkeesian. And you never know, she might be watching. But before we start on number 9 on my list of top 10 people who define the progressive left, I'd like to say a big hello to our sponsors. Jamie Oliver's Punchy Jerked Rice. Accept no substitute. Appropriate a packet today. Anyway, Anita Sarkeesian. Well, I'm going to start with the 19th century, and back then there was a political issue called the Schleswig-Holstein question. And it was an issue that was so complex, so complicated, with lots of different players and machinations, that the British Prime Minister of the time, Lord Palmerston, said only 3 people ever really knew the truth about the Schleswig-Holstein question. One's dead, one's gone mad, and the third is me, and I've long since forgotten. And I feel the same way about Gamergate. There is so much claim, counterclaim, truth, misinformation out there that it's hard to tell what went on and how truthful were all the protagonists in this. Suffice to say that at the end of Gamergate, it enhanced the reputations of 3 people. On the right, it was Milo Yiannopoulos. In the centre, it was Sargon of Akkad. And on the left, it was Anita Sarkeesian. Now, Sarkeesian made a big deal of the fact at the time that she was a gamer. She was a female gamer. And there's a video of her sitting on a couch with a smile on her face and a Xbox controller in her hand, happily playing away at a video game. And talking about how she loved video games and how it was all nasty that there were all these sexists and misogynists kind of making it an unsafe space for women. Unfortunately, we don't know whether that entire video was honest or whether it was a pack of lies, because in another video of her giving a speech at a feminist conference, I think it was a conference, but anyway, she was giving a speech on feminism, and she said she doesn't particularly like gaming. That she was going there to expose misogyny and sexism, not because she enjoyed games. So which one is it, Anita? Where is the truth? I would think that the slick, polished video is the lie and the lecture is the truth, but I can't be 100% certain. You see, why am I treading on eggshells? Well, that's the reaction you get around Anita Sarkeesian. She is... what's the best way to describe it? She's out there with a sniper rifle. She's out there with a bag full of hand grenades. She's just waiting for somebody to slip up and bam, got you in the crosshairs, or she's lobbing hand grenades into who she imagines her opponents to be. Now, she set out in another talk her position, which is everything is sexist, everything is racist, and you've got to point this out all of the time. Let that sink in for a moment. Pointing out supposed problems all of the time. She did it with that trademark grin of hers. It has the smile. It's the smile of an assassin. And what I've witnessed with Sarkeesian is not that she is a leading figure of third-wave feminism. In fact, I think third-wave feminism has been around for some time, but she had really pushed it into the mainstream. So much so that she's getting invited to address the United Nations, and she's getting invited to all these places to speak. She is on the top table, and yet at the same time she cries oppression and victimhood, not just for her fellow women who cannot sit and talk to dignitaries at the United Nations and get to all these high prestige events. No, she herself is victimized. Well, we all have to live and stand and sometimes get punished for what we say. And this is no different for her. She doesn't get a free pass because she's Anita Sarkeesian, third-wave feminist and crusader for women's rights. If she says something dishonest, like she likes gaming when the evidence is indicating that she doesn't, or that some of her third-wave feminist ideas are actually a female supremacist movement rather than a genuine attempt to be more fair or to give people of both genders equal rights, or to combat actual acts of misogyny and sexism, which are rarer than what she and her third wave feminist colleagues actually think. So she's got to stand on her own 2 feet, and if people find out that there's incongruity, we're going to criticise her. And plenty of people do, and then she falls back into the victim narrative whilst crying to the United Nations. This is not a victim. But the other thing about Sarkeesian that makes her unpleasant, and what I think makes her a defining figure on the left, on the progressive left, is the way she goes on attack. And this is not just something that she... it's the cat. She wants to come in. Bear with me 1 minute. Where was I? Oh, yes. Letting the cat in. No, Anita Sarkeesian. So, the way she goes on attack, I think it's very indicative of how the left conduct themselves these days when they meet ideological opposition. And I'm thinking of incidents that took place at the 2017 VidCon convention. Now, in one event, she was on a panel, and I think it was feminism and combating sexism and abuse. And I think it was about combating abuse online as a YouTuber, as a content creator on YouTube. And it just so happened that there were a lot of people of different political stripes. You know where I'm going with this if you're familiar with the story. So anyway, there was Sargon of Akkad and the Wazowskis, or are they the transgendered film director? The Warskis. And who else was there? I think Dr. Randa McCann was there. A few others, some of the honey badgers were there. And they all sort of occupied a front and centre position in the auditorium. Now, it was a first come, first served basis seating. Everybody just happened to be present. And a group of the free-thinking shitlords, as they call themselves, all occupy these seats. Now, what happened next is a matter of record, because video footage and sound recordings were taken. But in the hands of Sarkeesian and third wave feminists, it's a different story. So Sarkeesian spotted Sargon front and centre in the audience, and she called him a garbage human and a piece of shit, and she got very angry at his presence, and she actually broke a VidCon rule about being on a platform and abusing a member of the audience. You're not supposed to do that at VidCon, but she did it. And the only thing Sargon is recorded saying, because we got this all on tape, is he invites her to debate him. That's all he says. But later she spun this story to say that he was hurling abuse at her, that he was being intimidatory to her. Now, what do I think happened? Well, we've got the videotape to prove that he never hurled abuse at her. The only thing he said was, let's debate. Nobody else in that crowd was saying anything rude to her. But yes, they were there early and they did get a big block seating. And if they say that was just purely chance and purely accidental, I don't quite believe you guys. I think you knew that this was an opportunity. There was all these empty seats and Anita Sarkeesian was going to be there, and you wanted to see what would happen if you had sat in those seats. Now, I'm not blaming that. That's a perfectly fine thing to do. In fact, I even applaud it. I think you should own it. If you're saying, oh, it was just by chance we were there, I think you made the most of an opportunity. And well done to you, because I would have done the same. But the fact that Sarkeesian spun this into a personal attack on her, rather than her violating VidCon rules, is extremely disingenuous. But then, as we've seen, that's the kind of person she seems to be. The other event happened when she was on another panel with a YouTuber called Boogie, who is a kind of very mild-mannered, almost a constantly apologetic figure who was on this panel, and he was doing exactly that. He's being extremely mild-mannered and apologetic for some of his masculinity, and sort of saying, I want to understand, I want to be better, I want to do things better, because he's got Anita Sarkeesian next to him and a few other feminists next to him. And then backstage, she absolutely tore into him. She subjected him, a very nervous, mild-mannered person, subjected him to a torrent of abuse to him. This is, again, unacceptable under Vidcon rules, but she got away with it. And she keeps getting away with it. She lies, she gets away with it. She falsely accuses people, she gets away with it. When VidCon happens and Sargon of Akkad plays exactly by the rules, he does not step out of the rules, but Anita Sarkeesian does. Who's the person that doesn't get invited next year? Who's the person who finds themselves on the ban list? It's not her, it's him. She has clout, she has pull, she's into the United Nations. The only ray of hope, if you do not like third wave feminist supremacy, peddling feminism as if it's a supremacy movement, and if you're against that, and you are against political correctness movement and the far left, the progressive left in general, your crumb of comfort is that feminist frequency, which is something she's heavily involved in, is tanking. It's running out of money. Its circulation is plummeting. So she is at this stage preaching to the converted, but she has access to the corridors of power. And I find it incredible that no one's called her out, that she gets a free pass to say and do whatever she likes, even if that is dishonest. And so this is a thing we're finding on the left, that if you are a public figure on the left, you find yourself getting free passes, and you're getting extremely lenient treatment from people in the media and the new media and the tech companies. So she is the one who is completely privileged. In some ways, is she the Otto von Bismarck of this saga? And is Milo the one who's dead? I mean, reputation-wise. Is Sargon Lord Palmerston, who is long since forgotten? And that leaves me as the one who's gone mad. Until next time, drum roll for who number 10 is. In fact, if you can guess who number 10 on my list of top 10 people who define the progressive left is, you'll get some kind of brownie point from me, because I don't really have anything to give you. Oh, except for a packet of Jamie Oliver's Punchy jerked rice. Yum, yum. Good night, everyone.